All right, welcome to another week of looking at Genesis. Today we are going to be looking at Genesis chapter 18. It begins with the location being when Abraham was by the great trees of Mamre, and it's where earlier in Genesis we see that Abraham parted company, where he went after he parted company with Lot. That will become significant later on in the chapter. Um, this chapter is somewhat fantastical, is the word I use, because it begins by saying that the Lord appeared to Abraham, and yet when Abraham describes it, he describes it as seeing three men. He invites them uh, for supper, basically. He offers them hospitality, and they say, "Sure, we'll have it." So Abraham runs around, gives Sarah some orders, and kills the fatted calf, as it were. And before you know it, these three men are enjoying this meal that Abraham has prepared for them. And while these men are eating this meal, uh, and Abraham is standing there, uh, he asks Abraham, these three men ask Abraham where Sarah is, and Abraham lets them know that he's in, she's in the tent, and then God announces that Sarah is going to have a son, and now Sarah, who is obviously curious about these visitors, has been standing at the door of the tent, the entranceway of the tent, and kind of spying on them. And when she hears this, she laughs because she makes the point that she is old, uh, her husband is old, and she is past. We're told in this chapter that she is past the age of childbearing, which um, is another way of saying she's entered menopause. So it's not humanly possible for her to have children, and that is the point. Um, God is not entirely pleased with Sarah's response and laughing, reminding Abraham and Sarah that the Lord, there's nothing that's too hard for God. Again, we see the issue of faith coming in. On the face of it, of course, God can do anything, but I think we can all sympathize with Sarah. Um, God is asking much of Sarah here to believe that she would have a child. And this section of the chapter ends with Sarah entering in the conversation and kind of speaking up for herself and weakly denying that she had laughed. And it ends with God saying, "Oh yes, you did laugh." So there you go. That's kind of that section. Then it switches. The three men are about to leave, and where we get this picture of them talking to each other, and they're saying, "Well, like, should we let Abraham in on what we're doing? Abraham's a righteous man; he's going to have righteous descendants." Uh, and then apparently they decide that yes, they're going to let Abraham know, and so then the Lord speaks to Abraham and says, "You know, we are looking into. I am going." Again, three men, but one will. Uh, we are going to investigate and see if the cries that have gone up about Sodom and Gomorrah are true, and to decide whether or not we are going to destroy these cities. So at this point, two of the men go on to, and I say men, go on to uh, Sodom, and the Lord is there speaking to Abraham. And Abraham has been thinking about this judgment, and he asked God, well, what if there's 50 people, 50 men, is the way he describes, 50 men in this city who are not evil, who are righteous people? Would you destroy it? And then God says, of course, I wouldn't destroy the righteous with the unrighteous, and so I would spare this city for 50. And then Abraham and God go back and forth, 45, 40, 30, 20, down to 10. And interestingly, and probably not coincidentally, that's the minimal size of a synagogue in the Jewish faith is 10 men. So uh, that carries on in Jewish tradition. But anyway, that is where that section of Genesis ends up. And so that is this chapter, and next week we'll continue on in this story. All right, that's all for today.